High above the clouds on Flight 237 from Chicago to Atlanta, Aisha, a poised black flight attendant, faced a nightmare when Gary, a rude passenger fueled by bourbon and entitlement, harassed her over a drink, hurling insults that escalated into a tense standoff, until her calm resolve and the unexpected support of fellow passengers turned the tide, forcing Gary to back down in humiliation. Not only that, what happened after that will shock you even more. Hey fam, welcome back to the channel. Don't forget to like and smash the subscribe button as you prepare for a story of unexpected heroes and a moment of kindness that defies prejudice. The cabin of Flight 237 hummed with the steady drone of engines as it cruised at 30,000 feet, cutting through the night sky from Chicago to Atlanta. Overhead lights cast a soft glow on rows of passengers, some dozing, others tapping away at laptops or scrolling through phones. The air smelled faintly of coffee and recycled air, a familiar scent to anyone who'd flown before. At the front of economy class, a young black flight attendant named Aisha moved gracefully down the aisle, her navy uniform crisp, her braided hair pulled into a neat bun. She carried a tray of water cups, offering them with a warm smile that crinkled the corners of her brown eyes. At 32, Aisha had worked the skies for 5 years, her calm demeanor a shield against the chaos of air travel. But tonight, that shield would be tested. In seat 17C, a man named Gary slouched, his broad frame spilling over the armrest. He was in his late 40s, balding with a sunburned neck, wearing a wrinkled polo shirt and a scowl that deepened with every sip of the bourbon he'd demanded earlier. He'd been loud since takeoff, complaining about the legroom, the delay, the lack of a second drink, his voice cutting through the cabin like a dull blade. Aisha had handled him with practiced ease, her tone polite but firm, diffusing his grumbles with a professionalism honed by years of service. Most passengers ignored him, burying themselves in their screens, but the tension was palpable, a storm brewing in the recycled air. It started small. Gary waved his empty plastic cup at Aisha as she passed, his voice sharp. "Hey you, get me another one, and make it quick this time." Aisha paused, turning with a measured grace. "Sir, we're not serving alcohol right now, but I can get you water or juice," she said, her voice steady, her smile unwavering. Gary's face twisted, his eyes narrowing. "I didn't ask for water. I paid for this seat, and I want what I want. Do your job." A few heads turned, a murmur rippling through the cabin. Aisha's jaw tightened, but she nodded. "I'll see what I can do, sir." She stepped away, but Gary wasn't done. He leaned into the aisle, his voice rising, thick with disdain. "Unbelievable. You people always got an attitude, don't you?" The words landed like a punch, heavy with implication. Aisha froze mid-step, her tray trembling slightly. The cabin went quiet, the hum of the engines suddenly deafening. A teenage girl in 18B clutched her phone, her eyes wide. An older man in a suit across the aisle shifted uncomfortably, his newspaper crinkling. Aisha turned back, her expression composed, but her eyes blazing with something fierce beneath the surface. "Sir, I'm here to help you. Please keep this respectful," she said, her tone a tightrope between calm and command. Gary smirked, leaning forward, his bourbon breath wafting into the aisle. "Respect? You're the one disrespecting me, acting like you run this plane. Maybe if you smiled more, I wouldn't have to complain." The venom in his words stung, and the cabin bristled. A woman in a red sweater whispered to her husband, "That's awful." A college kid filming on his phone muttered, "This guy's a jerk." Aisha stood tall, her 5'4" frame radiating a quiet strength. She set the tray down on a nearby cart, her hands steady despite the heat rising in her chest. This wasn't her first rude passenger, but it was the first time in months she'd felt the weight of those two words, "you people," cut so deep. The confrontation escalated fast. Gary stood, swaying slightly, his bulk filling the aisle as he jabbed a finger toward Aisha. "I want to speak to your supervisor. Now I'm not dealing with this nonsense from you." His voice boomed, drawing every eye in economy class. Aisha didn't flinch. "Sir, I'm asking you to sit down and lower your voice," she said, her words clear, her authority unmistakable. "We're all trying to have a safe flight here." But Gary wasn't listening. He stepped closer, towering over her, his face flushed. "Safe? You're the problem, sweetheart. Maybe if you weren't so uppity, this wouldn't be an issue." The insult hung in the air, raw and ugly. Aisha's heart pounded, but her training kicked in. Years of de-escalation drills, of swallowing pride to keep the peace. "Sir, "I need you to sit down, or I'll have to involve the captain," she said, her voice a steel thread. Gary laughed, a harsh bark that made the teenage girl flinch. "Go ahead, call him. I'll tell him how useless you are." He reached for his phone, fumbling as if to record her, his finger wagging in her face. That's when the others stepped in. A burly man in a Cubs cap from 16A stood up, his voice gruff. "Hey man, knock it off. She's doing her job." The woman in the red sweater nodded, her tone sharp. "You're the one causing trouble, not her." A flight attendant named Mike, a wiry guy with glasses, emerged from the galley, his radio crackling as he spoke into it. The cabin pulsed with a mix of anger and support, the passengers' murmurs coalescing into a chorus of disapproval. Gary faltered, his bravado cracking under the weight of their stares, but he doubled down, muttering slurs under his breath as he sank back into his seat. "Hey fam, before we continue, we've noticed most of you love watching our videos but haven't subscribed. Please join our crew. It takes a sec, it keeps you in the loop, and helps us bring you more epic tales. Smash the like and subscribe that button now." Aisha exhaled, her shoulders relaxing a fraction. She glanced at Mike, who gave her a reassuring nod, then turned to the passengers. "Thank you, everyone. Let's keep this calm, okay?" Her voice was soft but firm, a lifeline in the storm. The college kid stopped filming, his thumbs hovering over his screen as he typed furiously, likely a tweet or a TikTok about the crazy plane guy. The older man in the suit met her eyes and mouthed, "Good job." Aisha nodded, her smile returning, though it carried a trace of weariness. She'd handled it, again, but the sting lingered. The aftermath unfolded as the plane began its descent into Atlanta. Gary sat sullenly, his arms crossed, staring out the window as if he could will the incident away. Mike returned with the lead flight attendant, a stern woman named Carla, who approached Gary with a clipboard and a no-nonsense glare. "Sir, your behavior was unacceptable," she said, her voice low but cutting. "You've disrupted this flight and disrespected our crew. When we land, security will meet you at the gate." Gary's head snapped up, his mouth opening to protest, but Carla raised a hand. "No discussion. You're done here." The announcement rippled through the cabin, met with scattered applause. Aisha stood at the back, helping a mother with a toddler, her hands busy but her mind racing. She'd seen passengers like Gary before, entitled, loud, quick to lash out. But this one had pushed her to the edge. She thought of her brother, a cop who dealt with worse every day, and her mom, who'd taught her to stand tall no matter what. "You're enough," her mom's voice echoed in her head. Aisha clung to that as the plane touched down, the wheels screeching against the tarmac. At the gate, two uniformed officers waited, their faces impassive as Gary shuffled off, his head down, muttering about lawsuits. The passengers disembarked, many pausing to thank Aisha. The burly man in the Cubs cap shook her hand, his grip firm. "You're a rock star," he said, grinning. The woman in the red sweater pressed a folded note into her palm, a thank you scrawled in loopy cursive. Even the college kid, still clutching his phone, gave her a thumbs up. "You're viral now," he said, half joking. Aisha laughed, the sound lightening the weight on her chest. Carla pulled her aside as the cabin emptied. "You okay?" she asked, her tone softer now. Aisha nodded. "Yeah, just glad it didn't get worse." Carla sighed. "It could have. You kept it together, kept us all safe. That's what matters." Aisha smiled, a real one this time, and headed to the crew room, her steps lighter. She'd face the storm and come out stronger. The incident on Flight 237 didn't fade quietly. The college kid's video hit social media, racking up millions of views across the U.S., shared it with captions like, "Flight attendant shuts down rude passenger," and "Respect the crew." Aisha didn't seek the spotlight, but it found her. Local news picked up the story, praising her poise, and Delta issued a statement condemning Gary's behavior while commending their staff. Gary, meanwhile, faced a fine and a ban from future flights, his name a cautionary tale whispered in airport lounges. For Aisha, the real reward came days later, on another flight. A little girl with braids like hers tugged at her sleeve as she passed out snacks. "Are you the lady from the video?" she asked, eyes wide. Aisha crouched down, smiling. "Maybe." "Why?" The girl beamed. "You're so brave. I want to be like you when I grow up." Aisha's throat tightened, and she handed the girl an extra cookie. "You already are," she said. The skies weren't always kind, but moments like that reminded Aisha why she stayed. She thought of Gary, of the passengers who'd stood up, of the girl who saw her as a hero. Respect wasn't just a word. It was a choice, one she made every day, and one she hoped others would too. As she locked the galley on her next shift, she glanced out at the clouds, a quiet vow settling in her heart. To keep flying, keep fighting, keep building a better sky for everyone aboard. Love stories like this? Subscribe for more, and don't forget to drop your comments. It means a lot.